Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another session where ZEE5, the largest Indian entertainment destination, in association with ET Brand Equity, presents ZEE5 Intelligence Monitor, a knowledge series that will deep dive into consumer behavior towards products and services across diverse categories. Today, in this fifth episode, we will focus on the rapidly expanding quick delivery service category in India. In the recent years, and everybody here knows about it, we have seen a rapid growth of e-commerce and the increasing demands of modern consumers have really paved the way for a dynamic and thriving delivery industry. It's so far so dynamic that everybody wants deliveries to be done within 10 minutes. As we gather here today, we are presented with a unique opportunity to explore and delve into the fascinating world of quick delivery service, specifically in the Indian context, where we all know that the Indian consumer just gets demanding, day by day. In this session, I'm honored to be joined by industry stalwarts who will unveil their market insights and will help us take a look at how the category is growing. It's my great honor to introduce my panel today. First, we have Mr. Manik Oberoi, Vice President, Revenue Retention at Zepto. Welcome, Manik.
Thanks, Satrish, for having me.
Next up, we have Mr. Bharat V, Director of Marketing, Instamart, and Private Brands at Swiggy. Welcome, Bharat.
Hey, thank you. Great to be here.
And we also have Mr. Rajiv Bakshi, COO at ZEE5. Welcome, Rajiv.
Hello, always a pleasure to interact with you, Satyajit.
Thanks, Rajiv. Great. So, let's start, by understanding from Rajiv here. Rajiv, give our audiences and, all of us here a glimpse and understanding about what ZEE5 Intelligence Monitor is and why are we looking at the quick delivery service as a category specifically today?
So a precursor to ZEE5 Intelligence Monitor is actually the app ZEE5 that we have in this country. It's a very popular app, viewed by 100 million MAU every month. And the birth of this idea actually took place during the COVID years, where we felt that we are dissecting data in so many forms that what of this will be extremely useful to our advertisers was the investigation that we started doing. The second trigger for why we wanted to do something like a ZEE Intelligence Monitor was that consumerism by itself was changing. Categories were getting kind of the borders or the lines dividing businesses were getting kind of erased. And many new, like the one we're going to discuss today, the category was kind of just about starting then. And one could kind of understand that consumer, as you said earlier in your note, is going to be ever more demanding, ever more spoiled. And we felt that multiple product categories eventually will collaborate, not necessarily compete, and a new world order is coming off. So the entire idea of ZEE5 Intelligence Monitor was that what can we do as a small contribution to our advertisers? How much of preferences, imminent changes, disruptions which are happening, what is the response of consumers in India that ZEE5 access to? How much of that can we kind of generate and kind of share with our advertisers in some form and order which will become meaningful to them? We assume that they are champions of their categories, but we hope that some of the insights that we will bring either will reaffirm or validate their kind of original thinking and maybe trigger some new thoughts. So with that kind of humble approach, we kind of launched this ZEE5 Intelligence Monitor. Like you said, this is the 5th edition, and we covered a lot of fascinating categories. And this, I think, is one of the most fascinating emerging category, which we are calling QDC, but I'm sure it will have different names and avatar as we go forward.
You greatly summed it up, Rajiv, and you said, they are category creators in a way. And hence, it automatically connects to my next question to Manik. Manik is from Zepto, and Zepto is believed to be one such player which has kind of created this category, along with one or two of its competitors. So Manik, my obvious question to you is that we try to understand, deep delve into this category. Help us understand that is this a metro phenomenon majorly, like quick delivery service 10-minute delivery, is it a metro phenomenon majorly, or does it also boil down to non-metro areas, which would give us an understanding of the consumer and how the consumer is perceiving businesses there? Yeah.
Sure. I think I'll just start from when we were trying to pilot Zepto as a 10-minute delivery service back 2 years back, starting from Bandra. We are now talking about metro, but I'll just take a step back. And we thought within metro also, it is going to be just a premium geography thing. Like not every geography within a city also might need it. But what we realized as we started going deeper and deeper, that people actually care a lot about convenience. The retention of our users skyrocketed, and we were trying multiple pilots. We were just trying to get our product market fit. Between 20-25 minutes or a 15 minutes and a 10 minutes, the retention just skyrockets after a point. So people care about convenience. And at that point in time, honestly, people even didn't realize that this is a need that they have, because they were acquainted to a 20-30 minute delivery and everyone was happy. I don't think there was any challenge with a 30-35 minute delivery. And by design, India grocery is built on back of Kirana stores, which also offer this convenience. If you take a step back and think, all our retailers all take, like, you have to go out and buy, but 95% plus of the grocery industry relies on our local Kirana stores. So that convenience actually is embedded in India's DNA. The only difference that we have tried to bring in as an industry, I would say, across all players, that you don't need to even step out of your house, but the convenience remains. And we have seen it across multiple experiments that retention just skyrockets. So people actually do care about convenience. And why I'm giving this background is I genuinely believe that the same phenomena will get extended to metros. See, the model to crack cities will always vary. There is no one size fits all answer for each city. A Delhi behaves very differently from a Bangalore, behaves very differently from a Bombay. So the tactical means to crack the city might vary between multiple customer experience things, but the common string across all cities, I believe, will remain convenience. But there will be other secret sauces for each city and each region and cluster as we go deeper. So that's how I think non-metro will also behave very, very similarly to metros, but there will be some additional things required to crack like a tier 2 or a tier 3 city beyond convenience.
Mm-hmm. Interesting that you mentioned about, people are fine with 30-minute deliveries, because I think nowadays, even if you take 15 minutes for a delivery, people get a little bit, iffy on that. Bharat, I'll come to you here, right? Tell us about your understanding and your research before launching into this category, right? Because Swiggy, as we all know, started, and is still a food delivery platform. From there to Instamart and things like on the quick delivery part. What is the research that propelled you to go that distance or come into this business? And what has been your take about how the consumers here are?
So yes, as a mantra for Swiggy itself, we believe in elevating users' value by bringing unparalleled convenience to the Indian consumer. In order to do that, so in every space that Swiggy enters, there is an element of convenience that we bring in, along with a method in which we can elevate consumers' value. Be it Genie, which is our courier, which is our delivery service from point to point, be it food, be it Instamart, or be it some of our recent acquisitions and verticals that we've started, be it Dine Out, be it Stepping Out, etc. So that's the mantra in which Swiggy operates, and that's what it's been really successful in doing. It's a no-brainer that that grocery as a category is massive in India, and for someone who is who's perfecting the art of delivery per se, or bringing the art of convenience to consumers, solving for grocery is a very, very big need. Instamart was, of course, not the first model. Swiggy did partner and operate in and tried several models before the launch of Instamart. But we're really happy to say that since the launch of Instamart and the speed at which it's grown, with the category partners as well coming in and growing it furthermore. It's a very satisfying space, and it's a category that's here to stay. So allow Swiggy to kind of really place massive bets on Instamart and see where and really leverage on this consumer love that comes our way.
Great. I'm really intrigued to ask this question because you have while you have the Swiggy food app delivery, you have Instamart as well as, and as you mentioned about grocery. So how does a food consumer, food buying consumer behave differently when he is ordering grocery on the same platform or on Swiggy Instamart? How is the consumer different, or the consumer behavior is different?
No, I mean, there is, while a large cross section of our users are users who've tried both food, grocery, and some of our other verticals as well. That's where the challenge really is for us to, the challenge and the opportunity is for us to really keep expanding our horizon. All of this falls under an occasion that is there. It's fundamentally arises either it's an occasion where you want to spend your Friday night at home and order food for your family or a gathering out there, or you're running the race early in the morning and you need your bread and eggs. The fact that Swiggy can be there for every occasion, for every need that arises, is what we work on. The user here, while there is a large intersection of the user, the need varies from user to user. A 25-year-old bachelor would order single meal food items from our food section. The same bachelor would order ice cream late in the night, perhaps after his shift. A 40-year-old mother might order food to supplement something that she's cooked at home. The same mother might need milk, eggs, and fruits and vegetables in the morning. So that's really how, for the same consumer, they have various occasions in which Swiggy plays a role. And our ability to integrate all of that, learn from all of this, and really leverage data at the back of all of this to deliver the highest quality of convenience is where the challenge, and that's what makes it beautiful.
Great. It's a challenge and it's an opportunity as well. Interesting insight, Bharat, and it connects great with my next question to Rajiv. Rajiv, I really wanted to ask you, right? What does all these data sets say about the consumer of quick delivery service in India? And what's your thought? What does it say about the new India that we are, new consumers that we have in India?
I tell you a very interesting thing that at least we have deciphered over the period of last 1 year through multiple research in multiple categories we've done. I think something which is very well documented for Indian audience or Indian consumer, you can call it, is that we are very value conscious. It's a very documented, every category, you speak to every brand manager over the last 20 years, they will say India, they're very value conscious. I think what in subconscious, that how we appear now today, is we're very time conscious. I don't think it's very well documented or understood. When we talk convenience or comfort, essentially that few emerging trends which has happened and changed your and my life and it's a universal truth. It's not happening to one pocket of society. That's also a myth that we believe if something is happening to us, is not happening to others. I think we're all kind of, especially after digital in the last 3 years, we all become very similar to each other. Right? I was on a flight yesterday and the lady said, I don't care. You give me the aisle seat or the window seat. The only thing I don't want is the middle seat. And I think everybody in the plane wanted to feel the same way. So we were very similar, right? She was an expat, 55-year-old. There was a young boy, young girl. Everybody felt the same. I told her they were all very similar, despite thinking that we were very different. Same goes here. So there are few universal truths which has appeared. One is that everybody is very time conscious. Perhaps they're not understood it, they're not documented it, they're not registered it, they're not said it. But clearly we are all very time conscious. The reason is that we all want to do so many more things than we wanted to do 10 years back. We want it all. And we want it now. Now, if we add that, we want it all, we want it now, and we want it at the lowest cost, you can understand what's happening.
Right.
It's a tremendous change. The other big thing which has happened, and I think Bharat mentioned to that, is of course of the boy working alone, 24-year-old, and ordering something in the middle of the day, then late night. that there was, again, this is very well documented, that we were joint families and we all read this, then became nuclear families. The concept of people living alone, individuals, and even when they're living together with few people, they're still individual in the spirit and attitude now. In your own home, there are 4 people, they're all individual. It's not understood, documented enough. So you may order something thinking you order for the family, but suddenly your daughter or son or husband will surprise you that this is not what he or she wished at 5 o'clock. Or they have a different need at 11 o'clock at night, which you will not understand. So I'm saying there is such disparity between the families now that a lot more research needs to go to understand what really the new India is emerging to be. To me, the new India is about, I want it all, I want it now, and I want to pay the least for it. And anybody who respects that and gives me a time saving on it, I will reward him immensely. So I think it's the greatest opportunity we have now for efficiency, if I were to put it in one word.
Great. That's a great answer, Rajiv. It intrigues me about, when you say that, the new India wants it all at once, right? So what all does new India want? And that's what, my question to Manik would be, right? Manik, when you talk about categories, right? Where do we see categories, and in which category or which product categories do we see, this trend of quick delivery, burgeoning more? I mean, what are the categories that people and consumer want to be delivered right away?
I was saying, I'll just take some cue from what Rajiv already mentioned. See, when in the evolution of Q-commerce, I can speak from Zepto's vantage point. It was an impulse-driven category that people wanted munchies, ice cream at night, and like whatever these last-minute needs are, this is what people wanted. And this was a very big hook of people coming in. When people were coming, they were doing their first order. This was the category that they penetrated into. But over time, what we also realized that the perishable categories like fruits and vegetables, milk, bread, eggs is another high-frequency use case that, if cracked properly, is a very, very big use case because everyone wants it almost every other day. Right. So these are the kind of strong hooks that makes this category very high frequency and very different from a conventional e-commerce, because the frequency of a customer coming back to the platform is very small on e-commerce. Those are not the kind of use cases Q-commerce is actually solving for. So if you think about it, it is either deep impulse buying, which was like the starting point of Q-commerce. And slowly, what Q-commerce is transforming into is everyday need category that you can penetrate into. That's the two extremes. If you think about it, if you can replace your sabzi wala downstairs and your milk guy from Amul or Mother Dairy, right? That is what you are truly replacing. So those are the two broad spectrums of category, I would say. On top of that, all the monthly purchases that people do on staples, that is where I would take another cue from Rajiv, that people are price conscious. Like India, people are value conscious any given day. I think that's a given. So we have talked about convenience. We have talked about categories. On staples, people will go that extra mile to make sure that the pricing makes sense to them. So every category will have its own nuance. And if you think about it, any of our offline retail stores have not properly cracked fruits and vegetables, the category. Like just like if you next time see, you should notice this out. None of the offline stores would have cracked it primarily because of no one wants to go there every single day. So that's the convenience aspect getting solved in one category, but pricing needs to solve the staples category because that you do as a monthly purchase. So every category needs to be solved from one pillar of convenience or the other pillar of pricing. So these are all customer experience things, right? Like if you break down customer experience into convenience, pricing, quality, trust, that's so one pillar will crack one category, some other pillar will crack the other category. But that's how the consumer, according to us, is thinking. And the way to crack each category will be different. Over time, like I genuinely feel that anything in grocery, because see, this Q-commerce is all backed on supply chain efficiency. Like if you can build the best-in-class supply chain, you will be able to crack some of the most difficult categories very, very meaningfully. Now, today, lychee on Zepto comes from somewhere in Bihar or UP almost every single day from airlift, via airlift. That is happening almost every other day. So now, once you build that backward integration on supply chain, you can create some of the most complex categories very, very effectively. I think that's how the consumer right now is behaving, and this evolution is just getting started. It is here to stay, and you get meaningful because you're backward integrating, you get the scale benefits on pricing and all on the staples category also, which you can pass on to the consumer in a meaningful way. So yeah, I think that's what I think how consumers are thinking about categories and purchases today.
Interesting that you mentioned about these two, extremes, as far as category is concerned, because you mentioned about matching, maybe, replacing the local sabzi wala, right? And when you say that, you have lychee flying down from Bihar every day, the question that, obviously arises is on the quality. Do we kind of, match the quality that the local sabzi wala is, being able to deliver? Or is it like, is there a compromise? So obviously my next question to Bharat would be on this. Okay, how do we, and are consumers really bothered about, the quality of the product when it comes to, quick delivery service? And how are you as a business, or how are you as, the leading players maintaining the parity here?
Well, absolutely. Like any service that you would that one would offer, quality is paramount. Let's understand the quality that consumers are used to right now in the grocery section. Right, whether a consumer is driving down to a popular modern trade outlet every month and buying their month's groceries, or walking down to the nearest kirana store whom they have a great equation with. Everyone supplying products to them, and while there is an element of trust that comes through relationship and with time, how easy is it to get your consumer satisfied through a quality query is what is very important in the process. Through ensuring quality, I think you have branded products, you have fruits and vegetables, which are subject to, which are the riskiest in terms of wastage, in terms of supply chain efficiencies, FIFO, etc. Then you have perishables, you have your entire cold chain that is available, and you will have to maintain all of this through your delivery cycle. When you compare this to practices that consumers are exposed to right now or in the traditional space, we've closely understood pain points there, understood ways in which we can make that aspect easier through a platform like this. These could come down in terms of, to fundamentally start with, have a very, very easy and efficient returns and refund policy. At source itself, ensure that our fruits and vegetables are sourced directly from farmers. We ensure that the entire supply chain of farm to table is as efficient and as inspected as possible. There is an element of, we operate through pods or dark stores here. Anyone can visit the dark stores and you would see the highest amount of quality and adherence to systems and processes over there. And we are in the business of service, right? We are in the business of bringing that convenience to people. So just understanding through queries, it's very easy to reach us. It's very easy to vent today. I think in terms of our systems and for all the new age companies that are coming out, the vigilance levels to which they monitor feedback is very, very high. This allows us to constantly feed into that loop and ensure that quality is maintained. Internally, we also have a very robust quality measurement system that translates into numbers that affects almost everyone in the company. That allows us to ensure that it's something as qualitative as quality can be very, very metric driven when it gets translated to something internally for us. That's the journey, and that's what we strive to achieve.
Wonderful. Rajiv, I really, wanted to ask you here, right? We are talking about categories and categories that are really seeing quick commerce and, quick delivery service thriving here. You know, does it, and there is a food for thought, basically does quick delivery service as a industry give opportunity to new homegrown players and new categories to be emerged when it comes to like meeting customer expectations?
I think Manik mentioned that these are early days. Now,
Mm.
obviously, grocery is the early category. Is going to be followed with personal care, perhaps documentation. But I think this is going to be a one-stop destination for multiple new categories which are going to come in the next 5-10 years. We haven't even thought of what all will come here, to be honest.
Right.
But there are a set of entrepreneurs, businessmen, individuals, and many existing business are pivoting to this new avatars where they believe this will bring them what they want is margins, right? Many businesses are losing margins, right? This gives an opportunity for them to repurpose their entire business and scale. Efficiencies that this business offers in terms of convenience, comfort, quality assurance, trust, consistent feedback, consistent consumer base coming every day. Now you can imagine, assuming I give you all of this and I get 10 people from 10 different industries and say, how does this appeal to you? What would you want to do with all of this in existence in millions across India, pan India? I'm quite sure many industries will want to jump and take a kind of attempt to what they could do with this kind of ecosystem, which is not just in existence, but exponentially growing and well accepted by every gender, male, female, metros, non-metros, right? Across strata. And it's not like a 8-hour business, right? Kirana stores is largely 8 to 10-hour business operation. This is 24 hours. I think very often we have, like in ZEE5, we have hundreds of engineers and hundreds of data analytics people working every day, every hour, only to improve service.
Great.
Look at the kind of passion that this bunch of people are doing to solve every problem, sometime in anticipation. So if that's the kind of ecosystem one is going to create, multiple industry will want to take advantage of it. I think very, very early days. And which is why I started by saying this is one of the most fascinating industry that I found. And it's just changed and brought to the fore our inherent new need of time management and multitasking.
Interesting. We both me, Manik and Bharat touched about the point about trustworthiness, right? And how consumers trust a brand and trust a name. I really wanted to ask Rajiv, ask you, Rajiv, here, that what does your research tell about trust factor being one of the decisive points of consumers going into XYZ platform for quick delivery?
To me, trust, of course, there are various categories and various product categories which can demonstrate trust. Groceries also trust because you want to get fresh vegetables. But I think one category which kind of speaks very loud to me is during emergency, when you want medicine sitting at the comfort of your home at night, and you're trusting them to provide you the medicine within 10, 15, 20 minutes. That kind of reliability, which is eventually affecting your health or the health of your loved ones, and you're trusting a platform for that, I think more than signifies the relationship which has developed now. I think it goes surpasses trust. And when you start doing these kind of categories, or you're sending business documents, sensitive business document, and you fully relying on them rather than personally going and doing it, I think that's demonstrating tremendous faith.
Obviously, it actually boils down onto how businesses are being trusted by consumers, right? And the baseline of trust and that lies with the business remains the same, be it a new category or be it the old traditional categories. Manik, it's very interesting that you mentioned about how players in this category need to maintain their supply chain and just as to make sure that the deliveries are made on time. It's raining cats and dogs here in Delhi today, and it just reminds me of something called the peak hours, right? And basically the things that deliveries get stuck for obvious reasons, because your riders can ride you in the rain. How do you manage the customer expectation in such a scenario?
See, first of all, I'll say that this category and the business that right now, the grocery business that all the QCom players are in, is a very retention and repeat heavy business. right? So there is predictability, and if you build in enough science that you can predict like the repeat behavior of a customer. So there are 2-3 parts to managing peak supply. First of all is core planning, in terms of like if we can plan our demand well. There is an organic demand that's of course going to come in, and then you throttle inorganic demand via interventions. So all the inorganic layer that you have, like that can be throttled in a very, very scientific way, basis the capacity that you build at a store level. This is, see, I come from Uber and I understand the marketplace dynamics, and this is not a marketplace as such, right? Where you have supply, you have demand, and supply can move around. The model that today at least Zepto works with is there is finite capacity at a store, which is being designed for a certain demand, right? So predicting demand is table stakes to make this model work. That's one part of it. Second is actually being very scientific about where you put up your store. It's not a guesswork that you put up a store and then you like make a geofence. It's actually being very, very carefully curated basis the density of users and like residential areas, which helps us design where the store should be. Because the whole conversation back in the days, which used to happen, that is this model rushing drivers to deliver? It was never about that. It was always about having the right location of the store. Once you have that, your order is out, and all the magic actually happens inside the store, not outside the store. So you pack and dispatch an order in less than 2 minutes. You have 8 minutes at your disposal to drive. And like, even if you take like 15 to 18 kmph, which is our average speed of a driver, like you can easily travel upwards of 2 kilometers. And that's all you need. But the location needs to be precise. So the entire like secret sauce of this model is in the location of the store. If you have that right, and if you have that closer to the density of the customer, there is hardly any problem that you will face. And what will happen over time is, because these are capacities defined and there is capex involved as a business, more stores will be required to serve the same cluster. That is when the network starts becoming even denser. The experience that we are seeing today across places, I think like Bharat can talk more about Instamart, but there is going to be a tremendous opportunity of creating multiple stores in the same cluster. That is when the time actually will go down further, and it will be cost effective. So it will be cheaper to deliver even in faster times. That is where we will see a very great inflection point on convenience. And I think through the course of this conversation, we have established that how convenience is so important for customers. It is only going to get better from here. So as you make the network denser and denser, that becomes like a positive flywheel. And on top of that, like the pharma example, like it is all about then penetrating into more use case of a customer. Then for all needs, there's a one-stop solution, which is Q-commerce. You don't need to go anywhere. And that's how the industry gets built on top of this one.
Indeed, a fascinating example. Bharat, how does it work in your case, right? Manik just mentioned about how things works, and it's about the magic happens inside the store, right? What's in it that happens, or when it comes to Instamart? How does it function there?
Yeah, so it is as Manik started off with. It is the backbone of this is database forecasting for us to really understand what are these peak hours, when do things go up and down. With time, we just keep getting better at the accuracy of forecasting this. Through what we've learned already, wherever we are placed across India, certain habits and patterns are kind of predictable. There is always a rush before 9 o'clock to deliver bread, eggs, fruits and vegetables for that last minute occasion. There is always a rush on a Friday evening, Friday night or a Saturday night for people to supplement their party needs with this. There could be late night requests that come in. People stock up on a Sunday evening in certain times for their weekly routines, multiple use cases for this. This is basic to how we understand how these patterns operate, and there is a clear forecasting which goes into the depths of SKU cross, hour of the day cross, a region where it's located, etc., etc. And the richer we get on this, it's better. Swiggy operates in a similar model. The only other advantage that we have is the delivery executives who go out and deliver this is we have a combination of those who deliver exclusively for Instamart and a shared resource of those who are either delivering food or genie service, etc., who can also double it. This gives us an advantage. I mean, for instance, it's pouring right now, and my location here, they can still deliver in 10 minutes. It's a promise that we make that you see today on all apps once you open, in terms of in how much time they would be able to deliver. Keeping that promise and marrying that with our forecast is where the key really is. Operationally, it's very similar to what Manik spoke about. Other factors that we take into consideration while doing this is India still behaves very differently in every local pin code that we see. For instance, yesterday, during the period of Eid, if you had opened our app, the assortment and the preferences would be completely different. Very local festivals that are only celebrated in a couple of cities require a separate assortment to be there. Come Onam per se, you will have the stocking up of assortments of, let's say, flowers and specific requirements go up tremendously. So our ability to really understand the consumer better is where everything starts. As long as we know that the consumer is hard pressed for time in the morning, the consumer would need his or her festival essentials before a major festival. Just understanding that and mapping that to our forecast is where a lot of science goes behind, and that's what again makes it truly enjoyable.
Great insight. We have spoken about Zepto, we have spoken about Swiggy, Instamart, the two platforms. We have ZEE5 in the panel. So, Rajiv, we really wanted to talk about the platform ZEE5 here, right? And I really wanted to, have this question to you where, how can ZEE5 as an OTT platform really help, players like Zepto and players like Swiggy, Instamart, multiply the user base, reach the more and more desired user base, and at the end of the day, multiply the business?
See, advertising over the period, and I've been in media for 20 years, over the period now, has become very addressable. Now, everybody wants a specific cohort and a specific time and a specific gender, specific age group, specific affinity, specific layering of economic prosperity and everything else. Now, ZEE5, because it's got such width of audience in the country, almost operating in 12 languages, with more than 200,000 hours of content being consumed across India on all models of S4 to AWOD, presents you opportunity to engage with audiences which are more like, let's say, to your liking on the day. The agility to change campaigns overnight within a campaign period multiple times is something so fascinating, and that also based on what kind of response, reaction, data enrichment, and of course change in strategies and problems that businesses sometimes kind of come up with, right? So sometimes you launch a campaign and a business itself sees some disruptions in your plans, and you want to modify or change the campaign itself. So I think ZEE5 offers all of that, along with, of course, large scale return back data. While, of course, we will continue to champion our research business, which is more like a promise, understated promise to all our clients across categories for us to provide them as to what's happening in India. And we'll continue to invest on that side. But alongside, in terms of media solution, is something that we're very, very passionate about. Because hypothetically, if I were to conceive a 12-part show on, let's say, Swiggy, Instamart, I know how I can build a story of either a drama, thriller, romance, comedy, or all put together with the backdrop of a delivery man or delivery boy. I mean, it's so fascinating. And that's, I think, is the finest way to kind of develop and demonstrate stories and solutions to audiences in a most light fashion. So advertising itself has taken many shapes, right? And today ZEE5 has a platform which is, OTT, as you know, is a flavor which is going to be there for a very long time. And it's just like these categories in early stages, provides multiple kinds of solutions of these kinds. Because we do content across movies, TV shows, premium content, sports, cricket, everything else. So I'm saying, depending on the challenge a brand may not be having, we can always customize solutions according to that. And the solution also exists in every branch. And again, I get surprised because so much depth and data and research exists in so many businesses, especially in the E-category businesses, but they're not able to use content as wisely to communicate their proposition, their branding. Largely, it's all about event-based. I still believe that they haven't really, especially because they know so much more about their consumer than many others, who craft stories for a much more longer term kind of solution. So it's not about brand placement. To me, that was something done 10 years back. I think that's done and dusted. That's very lazy work. There is much more in-depth work which platforms like ZEE5 can do with brands, which can be remarkable in terms of outputs.
Intriguing indeed. I really hope that, I really wish that we had much more time to discuss about this, this category and go in depth, but we are bound by time. But before we go, I really wanted to come to all my panelists here and have a quick word about, how do they foresee the future for this quick service, quick delivery service as an industry? We all are hearing the news on that this is a very nascent industry, nascent category. It's growing and growing fast. But I would want to know from the experts who are in this industry doing business day in and day out, how do they foresee the future? So maybe we can start with Malik. Malik, where do you see, the industry, and how do you see, what are the factors that will really lead the growth for this industry?
Sure. I think, what at least I foresee, how this industry is going to play out. These are early days, right? And what we have done is that we have cracked grocery as a category, and we're just getting started into that. But grocery is too wide. So the heavy lifting on supply chain has already, there's a lot of effort that has gone into setting up a lot of stores across these cities. So there are going to be three fronts how I see this. One is going to be geographical expansion, like the proof of concept of what we are trying to set up in metros and tier 2 cities. Like how does that go across other cities? That's going to be one direction. In parallel, because the infrastructure at a hyper-local level is set up, adding new categories is not that difficult. You just need to know which category to try out. And then if it works, it doesn't work, great. Like you move on to the next one, because the bulk of the investment is already done. You're just leveraging and increasing the revenue per square feet. That's the whole game. Like over time, that is going to become the mantra of or the litmus test for anything that we try out in this industry. That adding in pharma or adding in beauty, which is like a recent experiment across a lot of players, right? Beauty occupies very small volumetric space in our stores, but has great revenue. So revenue per square feet can get maximized from one box within the dark store. So these kind of experiments of category expansion is going to be the second big pillar. And the third and the most important one, how I see it, is just going deeper into grocery. Like grocery still is being cracked by the kirana stores. All of us are playing a very, very small part in that. Just cracking grocery in itself is big. And for that, all the pillars of customer experience, knowing our customers and what do they actually want in each category is going to be the game that everyone will be playing. So I do see this industry going in all these three directions, either sequentially or together. That's the tactical bit that we'll figure out over time.
Wonderful. Bharat, what's your take? Where do we see the industry growing and the factors that really grow this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Manik said, it's just getting started. It's a category that's braved through so many hardships. When COVID came and went, they said it's going to be a COVID phenomenon only. We braved through that and we're growing faster than ever. People said that it's a category that would only be restricted to small SKUs, small value items. Every day we see people ordering 20 kg atta from us to beauty products that are extremely expensive. They said that as more players come in, it's going to dilute the category. It's only growing. You see at least 4 players today thriving in this category. Even when we did consumer researches to understand where this consumer really is buying from, even in the SEC A segment, the penetration or the number of users who tried this category is almost as high as the number of users who tried e-commerce. That's a very powerful statement, given that the category exists in barely 25 cities today. If fortune today for India is in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, this category is only going to explode, if not anything. It's also, while there's a story for it to tap into all occasions, be it a last minute need to a monthly grocery cycle, it also cracks into every single occasion that the consumer today requires. So it's a great space to be, and we're really hoping that things only go upward from here.
Wonderful. Rajiv, your take, on how do you see, as both as a consumer and as an industry observer, right, this industry growing in the coming years?
Satyajit, I would say this, that we operate in the mass India, right? We have pretty much mass content, and which resonates very well with tier 2, tier 3 kind of pocket of audience. And this research basically is emanating from that kind of markets. And they have clearly given a thumbs up on this. So to me, like I said earlier, and I think my co-panelist Bharat also said this, that very, very early days. And with, what we see, predictive AI, etc., coming in, anything that solves and takes away my stress, gives me financial benefit, gives me extreme comfort, is reliable, is trustworthy, is bound to flourish. And of course, with what Prime Minister has done in the country in terms of the digital ecosystem, taking away any inhibitions people had in terms of spending and doing commerce with the precious thing called money. And to me, there is not even a second thought of, giving away your details and using it for financial transactions. I think we are in a very early stage. One thing I would say is, and to me, I say that for multiple categories, and we saw this in the research also, as more and more women participation goes up, this will explode. Half of India is women, if not more. So if women participation really comes into this category, and that certainly is true, especially for grocery and personal care and beauty, the 3 we mentioned, I think we are in for a great fortune.
Great. On that note, we are in for a great fortune. I think, one thing stands in unison here, that, we are looking at an exciting category, which is still at its nascent stage, which just gives the, there's a huge room for growth. The sky is the limit here, right? And here is hoping that, this category really catapults into, multi-million and multi-billion-dollar businesses for all the players here. And next time when we meet, I'm sure there will be a different set of challenges and different set of, customer behavior patterns that we'll observe. And we would love to discuss that, furthermore there. On that note, I would really like to thank our panelists here, Rajiv, Manik, Oberon, and Bharat, for taking out their time and joining us today and helping us and our audiences, get us, sneak peek into the world of quick delivery service. Until next time, stay tuned to ET Brand Equity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.